I introduce him to the other people that today join us. Domenico Vecchio is graduated to the, sorry, sì, non mi vedo. So Domenico Vecchio is graduated to the in veterinary medicine. She has a PhD in animal breeding and specialization in animal nutrition. Has also a postdoc fellowship at the University of Naples Federico II and a fellowship in animal reproduction at Universidade de São Paulo in the Department of Animal Reproduction in Brazil. He also was enabled as associate professor in animal science and in surgical, clinical, and veterinary reproduction. At the present, he works as head of the Department of Animal Science and Welfare at the Istituto Zooprofilattico Sperimentale del Mezzogiorno, that is the Italian national, where is the Italian National Reference Center for Hygiene and Technology of Water Buffalo Farming and Production. And he has also technical advisor for the buffalo species in the European Union Reference Center for the Welfare of Ruminants and Equines. And he is a member of the International Buffalo Federation and a part of the organized committee of this the webinar that we are going to do this year as a buffalo course. Okay, Domenico, the floor is yours. I hope that all the technical problems are already solved today, and so you can start.
So you can see the presentation. Victoria, you can see the presentation?
Yeah, yes, we can see. It's okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you to stay here today. Thank you to the organizing committee, Victoria, Antonella, and Professor Borghese for the possibility to talk about our work on buffalo welfare. And today we talk about an integrated system to complete the presentation of the president meeting on Classy Farm, and in particular about an aspect of the system, the evaluation of animal welfare in buffalo cow and heifers by risk assessment methodology. So in the next 30 minutes, we will try to make some consideration on following points referring to the breeding of buffalo cow and heifers. What is the animal welfare? Which kind of animal welfare, how to measure animal welfare level, the scientific basic of animal welfare, and animal welfare assessment parameters. The challenges of the health, as Eduardo told for us, of the health sector and the agri-food industry have been made more complex in the last year. Some aspect as animal welfare, the consumption drug, biosafety, as well as the health risk associated with them, are becoming increasingly interconnected, thus necessitating an integrated approach. In this framework, the Italian Ministry of Health has worked to a series of innovation to permanently change the aspect of animal health. Therefore, the challenge of the future is to start a process of implementation and development of this innovation. So our work is try to conjugate this force that just apparently are in contrast. The goal is to obtain the economical sustainability of the farm by the production of food safety in respect of the environment and animal welfare. This is possible if we valorize the level of animal welfare and sustainability as an intrinsically value of the product. And we try to harmonize this element, animal welfare, to have a more effective physiological response to the pathologies, by the maintenance of the immune system, biosafety to reducing the risk of spreading pathologies, and as consequence of these two objectives, the reduction of the use of drug, principally the antibiotics, so that we can reduce the antimicrobial resistance and the residual in food. As has been repeated, for the economic sustainability of the farm. In fact, animal welfare would have a great meaning and could represent an added value to the quality product and become an opportunity to sustain the income of the breeders. Animal welfare does become a guarantee of food security and quality. Well, what is the animal welfare? I think that this definition is very essential. Many definitions are proposed to define the concept of welfare that must include the emotive aspect and not only the healthy aspect of the animal. Welfare is expressed by the adaptation capability of the animal to the environment in which it lives. This affirmation is very important because it includes in welfare definition two elements: the animal, the environment, and the interaction. So when we want to evaluate the welfare, we must consider this concept: animal, environment, and interaction, positive or negative between them. Not all animals are adapted for all environments, and not all environments are adapted for all animals. Animal welfare was born to the concept of 5 freedoms reported by Bramble Report in 1965. The objective is try to guarantee the access of these 5 freedoms. Which kind of animal welfare? If we are as a technical, normally we recognize the welfare as a synonymous of the production. For animal sciences, for the clinic, is synonymous of health. Welfare may include all these aspects, but must be scientifically demonstrated to be conducive to the quality of animal life. We do not try to bend the concept of welfare to our needs, but we find the welfare aspect that can increase our income. In this image, we can see a theoretical reconstruction of curve among animal benefit and human benefit. For the start, if start by the natural level of welfare with the intensive or semi-intensive breeding system, we can increase the level of animals' welfare and the lives of productivity. For example, to apply the correct and constant nutrition or the protection from predators and parasites, as taught for us Eduardo and Maria. So the problem is not the intensification, but the level of intensification. When the intensification is balanced with animal exigence, structure, and management quality, we obtain an optimization of the resource and income. Otherwise, when the intensification of the farm is exasperated, we obtain an unacceptable welfare level and the presence of problems in the farm that require a cost to resolve them, and in more times an increase of impact in the environment. The paradox occurs when the cost to treating animals, to cure animal, is lower than the cost of preventing the problem. So this is very important because we have necessity to focalize on some consideration. Change the breeding system, for example, passing from an extensive or semi-extensive system to an intensive one, does not eliminate the dangers, but replace them with others and their risk. It is essential to remember that more technological systems require more skilled and specialized stock person to be managed, or we could have a worsening of the result. How to measure the animal welfare level? As indicated by the European Food Safety Authority, the methodology to be used is a risk assessment to obtain an objective tools conform to what is provided by current legislation and useful by properly trained veterinarians implementation times compatible with the business need, and that return a measurable quantitative value of the welfare level and the level for each breeding area, cow, heifers, calves. And it is useful for the technician to not only to see the level, but to identify the critical points and to solve them. The scientific basis of the protocol are represented by European legislation, EFSA recommendation, bibliography, welfare quality, AWIN for the animal, and project in particular for animal-based measures. So we have necessity to evaluate the condition of animal welfare. We must simultaneously evaluate different aspects: health, behavior, and emotional state of the animal. The identification of target population, in this case, in this time, buffalo, we have adult buffalo in lactation and dry period and periparturient animal and heifers. It's very important to identify the hazard in macro areas. By identifying the phases of the breeding system, we have the ability to identify animal, environment, and their interaction. Identifying the exhibition scenarios is very important because different exposure scenarios, intensive versus semi-intensive or extensive system, correspond to different hazards, and therefore this factor must be considered in order to focus and energize on the most important mitigation action. This is the core of the process. The heart of the process. After the identification of the target population, the process, as previously described, includes two groups of elements. On the one hand, the input is represented by the environment, where we identify the hazard, like nutrition, like other elements, like management, like structure, that can affect the animal's welfare in positive or negative way. The risk represents a measure not based on animal, in this case. We can observe this element without the observation of animals. On the other hand, the output is represented by the effect expressed by the animal in response to their adaptation capability to the environment. The effect is measured by the animal-based measures. This IBM are divided in two groups, direct or indirect IBM. Direct IBM was observed on the animal, like clover grouping, prolapse, lesion, skin lesion in the animal. And the indirect IBM was observed on the register of the farm, the historical of the farm, like annual incidence of adult mortality, on calf mortality, and so on. Somatic cell in the milk. Well, we have identified three macro areas. In the first two macro areas are collected the hazard and their threshold level. And then we have identified the IBM, the animal-based measures, represented by 14 items with their threshold level too. For each item, we have identified the threshold level in which the occurrence of hazard may be caused three conditions: a normal condition, no stress; a positive condition, eustress; a negative condition, distress. These levels are individuated by the bibliography and by the expert opinion activity. To perform the risk assessment, have need to define other aspects for each level of hazard. The weight. By an expert opinion elicitation through the correlation between the hazard and the possible adverse effect for each level of the items, for each items, the weight on the total level welfare were established. During all these information were used to formulate an algorithm that can be used to produce a numeric objective value. So, furthermore, the reports show the critical points that are eventually present for each item of the macro area, With this system, the technician and the breeder can locate the critical point and try to realize the improvement. An expert opinion elicitation based on modified Delphi technique was organized to collect the opinion of the 14 Italian veterinarians, and the 14th expert judged a set of IBM rating their appropriateness and the level of animal welfare and the level of pain and suffering due to the welfare consequence they measured. Experts were asked to score the hazard, welfare promoter, and IBM. So, as a result of this activity, the weight for each management and facility hazard threshold were determined, as well as the related benefit wing. Here, for reason of time, we report only the most important of the 114 items evaluated. Management and housing hazard that were determined to be associated with a very high negative impact on the welfare buffalo were lack of water availability, incorrect animal grouping strategy, dirty and unmanaged lying area, incorrect milking routine, poor maintenance of milking system, insufficient shade lying area, and or lack any cooling system for thermoregulation in animal, and the presence of inadequate or slippery floor in walking areas. In the same way, the management housing welfare promoter dealing with optimal buffalo comfort around resting obtained the highest rating. In particular, housing free for all animals, possibility for the adult buffalo to access a loafing area of the last 7 square meters, or a pasture for the last 16 days per year, a pen for the peri-parturiente animal with a very large less, an appropriate grouping too, an adequate temperature and humidity and ventilation, and the presence of experienced and trained stock person. And these are the IBM, the highest ranking were given to the mortality of the adults, the percentage of animals showing vaginal or uterine prolapse, body condition score, and percentage of deformed calving in adult buffalo. Our results represent the starting point for the development of this protocol for the assessment of the welfare of buffalo farming in a loose housing system. So, we started to focus in the 3 areas. For management is essential for animal welfare and consists in all the operation involving stock person. Although the structural feature of the farm may, at first glance, appear to be of greater importance in terms of effect on animal welfare, the latter is actually more influenced by day-to-day management of the main routine activities performed by the personnel. The personal assessment are evaluated the number of stock person working in the bar in relation to the number of animal cared for and the level technician trained. Thus, people have in performing activities with a greater influence on animal welfare. In order to develop a positive relationship between animal and human, there should be appropriate careful handling from animal from an early age. It is important for the personnel to maintain a constant work routine, treating the animal without rushing and in calm manner, especially during milking and handling. A substantial period of training appropriate to their responsibility include practical experience as well as continued training are considered essential for this engaging keeping in buffalo. In accordance with the mechanization of the farm, it is estimated the sufficient number of expert staff needs by the farm. Group management. As buffalo co-welfare is a dynamic concept that is also depending on a specific physiological conditions, such as delivery, milk production, or dry period, it's important to handle these animals separately during this different stage of their reproductive life, because they have different needs. The state of health of the welfare of buffalo cow is more greatly influenced by change in its environment, hierarchic order, availability of space, litter hygiene and comfort, access to feed, access to water, and other situations during this period compared to the other time in this life, in particular in transition period or in peripartum time. For this reason, while bearing in mind that the implementation is a challenge, a structured transition period management planning become necessary as a group of primiparous animals. For similar reason, it's important to divide the animal according to the number of delivers or production level too. Water availability, a very important element. All animals must have access to a suitable water supply, and absence of water may be due to problems with the function of the water trough, which therefore have to be monitored. Water must always be available to all groups and for all animals on the farm. Water may also be absent as a result of a problem with the distribution system. It is very difficult to exactly define which is an appropriate water supply in quantity and quality for each animal, because this characteristic, in particular the quantity, can be changed a lot depending on the subject, the environment, the production, the temperature, and we estimate that on average 10% of the live weight should be considered for maintenance only. So adult buffalo can have a necessity of starting from 16 to 115 kilograms of water per day, liters of water per day. For the reason, only when all the animals in the farm have access to a limited supply of water in order to satisfy their fluid intake needs by drinking whenever they want, a positive rating for the inspection item can be assigned. Not just a quantity, the quality of water. The water should be in a sufficient quantity to prevent any dehydration, and should be free from repellent, odor, test, infectious agents, toxic substance, contamination, and so trough water must not contain resin or old dirty, and the surface, bottom, or side of the trough are drinkable. Assessment of water and trough cleaning must be performed for all groups. This is an optimal condition, an absolute condition, the presence on the bottom, on the top, the water, an insufficient clean condition for the water. Okay. The litter management is in particular for the paddock of the animal, the confined animal. Animals should be maintained in a clean condition that is as free as possible of contamination with manure. The materials used for litter must be kept sufficiently clean. In order to guarantee this, is important that the litter management assessment must take into account both the level of hygiene, which can be perceived, and the routine and organization of the litter maintenance operation. This item, this inspection item, does not involve assigning the type of litter material, which is contemplated in other item, in other question. Good, an optimal condition in a permanent litter. Another type of litter, different system. An acceptable condition, it is considered adequate housing, and all litter are fairly clean and sufficiently managed and or grilled clean in almost group. And it is considered inadequate environment for housing and bending that are dirty, clearly and unmanaged and harmful to animal too, like this. Okay. Management of the milking operation and other hygiene. This is a very important element. Before milking, the teeth must be cleansed with water, a specific product, and then dry completely and thoroughly. After this operation, 2 or 3 streams of milk should be milked for each teeth to activate the release of oxytocin and enable the milker to look for any physical abnormalities in the secret liquid. An incorrect milking in the manner, a sequence of the cleaning, preparation, and attachment operation of the group is inadequate, with a consequent increase in the risk of over-milking and mastitis. We also recommend disinfecting the teeth after milking, obviously, with a post-dipping operation and possibly with pre-dipping operation. Some indication on the parameter to be used for the buffalo: 16 cycles per minute in the implantation of the milking system, vacuum adjustment between 38-42 millimeter of mercury, 16-14 ratio pulsator, and proper execution of ordinary maintenance of the implant. Structure, facilities. Just like management and environmental hygiene, farming facilities and equipment also represent an animal welfare hazard. For the reason, many works, recommendation, and scientific opinion link animal welfare assessment to the suitability of ruminant housing. Buffalo should be able to interact with one another and show pattern of behavior animal aimed to social structure maintains regarding of the farming system usage. The type of housing system. Animal must not be treated unless this is required for specific clinical and sanitary reason. The presence of any tethered animal will receive a negative rating, even if the latter are no producing animal. One possible buffalo cow and heifer should be give access to well-managed pasture or other suitable outdoor paddock for the exercise. A positive judgment should be assigned if use an exercise area at least 7 square meter or better still, an area of pasture is possible at certain time of the year. However, this only applies if the surface do not present any welfare risk, which could be stem from quality and easy of access to water source, protection from adverse weather condition, or transmission of infection as a result of mixing different herds, for example. The same that we see for the dimension in the preparatory animals. Well, the thermoregulation, temperature and humidity. Amongst domestic animals, buffalo are highly vulnerable to the maintenance of the heat stress due to poorly developed sweat gland, more thicker and dark colored skin, along with sparse hair on their body surface, which preclude evaporative heat loss, thereby incur major loss in production under extreme environmental conditions. Buffalo possess 1/8 of the sweat gland compared to cattle, and so it's very important that the breeding area should be provided with sufficient shade and, where possible, for an optimal condition of water for cooling either either as a swimming pool or a shower in buffalo. Like this, an optimal condition to protect, to thermoregulate, to perform the thermoregulation in the summertime in buffalo. This with the pool or shower. This is an acceptable condition with a good thermoregulation for shadow and a very high structure, and clearly an insufficient condition, natural but insufficient condition. And we arrive at the end with the animal-based measures. Up to this moment, the risk to animal welfare for dairy herd in loss housing have been assessed through the analysis of management and structures. However, an animal's welfare depends on how well it is able to adapt to its environment. And for a correct evaluation, in addition to analysis the housing area, it is also necessary to evaluate the output, the effect on the animal. A buffalo that is not a good condition will in fact show physical signs that can be caught, interpreted, and evaluated in order to understand its state of discomfort. Warning of discomfort are frequently linked to pathological condition, lemnis mastitis, abnormal behavior, stereotypy, or alteration in physiological condition, like body condition score. Behind the best or worst farming condition, the main elements of the assessment system is the animal. Observation and evaluation of its stature are therefore crucial. So, for this reason, is to measure correctly, the assessor must necessarily learn to identify, evaluate them in terms of their severity and assign a judgment to them, the IBM. For this reason, and to have the same approach and the same weight procedure for all assessors, it is necessary that all of them are properly trained, the veterinarian are properly trained and qualified to detect animal states. Body condition score. A body condition score represents an estimation of the level of satisfaction of the animal's nutrition needs by evaluating its level of fat. A high number of subjects below or above the limits indicate an incorrect balance between what is supplied, used, and the need of the animal. So we consider sufficient condition where the animal with incorrect level of body condition score is the percentage of an animal with a non-correct body condition score is between 5 and 10% of the animal. Optimal condition where this value is less than 5%, and then negative condition where more than 10% of the animal presented body condition score behind the limit, thin or fat. Normally, we use a Wagner modified scale, 1 to 10 point, like a beef. No? Is used in buffalo, and as for extreme thin animals, very thin animal or very fat animal. That is a very frequent condition that we have in intensive system or extensive system. The percentage of the long and deformed club in the adult buffalo. It is the result of an incorrect relationship between consumption and growth, as well as of possible nutrition error and upright defect. This condition is not correct. If this condition is not corrected rapidly, can lead to severe suffering for the animal. So, is a normal condition, a sufficient condition, where this effect is present between 5 and 10% of the animal. We have a good evaluation when this level, this parameter is less than 5% of the animal, and a negative evaluation when this parameter is higher than 10% of the adult animal. Some example. You can see incorrect another group. The prolapse, vaginal and uterine prolapse, is more frequent in intensive system for some aspect. The causes of prolapse in buffalo species are multifactorial. Genetic predisposition, uncorrect skeletal growth, but the component of food imbalance play a fundamental role. In particular, the ratio between calcium and phosphorus during a dry period is essential and should be close to 1:1 and not to 2:1, like in lactation period. In this way, the occurrence of vaginal and uterine prolapse is greatly reduced. And so we have thrill level, threshold, and normal condition, optimal condition, and negative condition, obviously in our system of production. This is a vaginal prolapse, and this is a uterine prolapse. As you can see, is a very critical condition for the animal. And the results from them, but with a very consequence on the health and the welfare of the animal. Deaths of animal in the barn are the consequence not only of the extremely serious health problem, but also of poor animal welfare condition. We chose to assess the percentage of buffalo that die in a barn within a year due to natural or accidental causes, or as a result of euthanasia or urgent slaughter, considering this event as the ultimate expression of negative welfare and disease management condition. The pertinent data shall be provided by the farmer himself or taken from the farm record. Obviously, we have a national bank of data of the animal. Each animals have identification and historical of the identification too. Normal condition between 3 and 5%, optimal condition less than 30%, negative condition where the mortality is higher of 5%, like in the heifers. So, for the take-home message, the checklist constitutes an impartial, reproducible, functional instrument based on risk analysis. It is enable a numerical animal welfare index to be assigned to each farm and through the data collection in each area to provide veterinarians and breeders with tools for improving farm management and structure while respecting farm sustainability. The use of this tool will yield a uniform assessment of the level of welfare of buffalo farm and is preparatory to the development of a trademark for animal welfare. The development and the implementation of methods and tools to support sustainability livestock may represent a know-how exportable also in very different systems. The method is unique. What change conforming different conditions are the hazard and ABM. For example, use of the pasture, etc. Well, the system is a dynamic system. You can see just a little bit of the complete system. Normally, the course for the veterinarian have a duration of 3 days with a practical activity. And it's possible insert a modification to obtain an increase of functionality conforming the statistical analysis of the result. And the collaboration is the way to obtain this result. So I want to thank you for the attention, and we are here to collaborate with all people that want to do it constructively. And thank you so much. Our center is open for collaboration, and it is your home too. Thank you.
Thank you, Domenico. Vabbè, perché devo chiedere se stanno. Thank you, Domenico. Thank you all the speakers today. Thank you for sharing with us their experience. That will help us to better understand the buffalo farming and to help us in manage in the correct way for a good sustainability and good health for the animal and for the product to it and for our health. I would like to ask the participant to write their question if there are some question. Possiamo attivare il microfono? We can try to activate your microphone, so if you want to si può? Abilita tutti? Non c'è abilita tutti? Io ce li ho chiusi ancora, non lo so. Is there any question? Alzare la mano, come si dice? Stand. You can stand the hand, click the button with the hand if you want to ask some question. Non ne vedo. Chat. Is there a question for Domenico? The presentation was very interesting, and De La Cruz asked Domenico, how often should animal welfare indicators be evaluated? Vecchio che fa? Domenico? Ah, devi riammetterlo. Sorry, Domenico is just to be included in the conversation. Domenico, ci sei? Hai letto la domanda?
I closed. No. All right.
How often
I close the presentation, but I close all the connection.
De La Cruz asking you how often.
Yes, you can hear me?
Sorry, my microphone was closed.
No, it's
so
okay.
I don't know. I think I talk like a fish.
No. Well, Luis, thank you for the question. Yes, for the animal welfare indicator, are very different depending from the scenarios. We have used normally for the IBM in the buffalo evaluation, the welfare quality IBM for the are evaluated. So, but is evaluating in different item specific for lactation period, dry period, heifers, periparturient, and calves. So the limit of the welfare quality is used to evaluate the parameter and the IBM in our system. But obviously, this limit is possible to change this limit if we have a new bibliography reference, and so is not a closed system, but is a continuous changing system.
Thank you, Domenico.
You're welcome.
I don't know if the people hear me before, because I I had my microphone closed. I ask to stand up the hands, clicking on the button if one of you wants to ask something to our speakers, the speakers of today, or just write the question in the chat. Sì, vabbè, volevo vedere prima se... Okay, they are thanking the speaker of today. They found very interesting the presentation. Hi, Claire. Thank you to join us.
And so, just to complete the answer for the Luis, normally is performed one time per year, the evaluation, but for the seasonality species like buffalo is preferable to perform the evaluation 2 times or more time for a year. And this evaluation is performed normally from the farmer veterinarians. So they have the possibility to perform this every month or every time he wants, and insert in a system that is a public system of the Ministry of Health. And so you can see the change in the level of welfare of farm during the year.
Thank you, Domenico, for la precisazione, for completing your replay. I don't see other question. So I think that we can conclude this section. I give the floor to Professor Borghese to just a conclusion for the work of today. Just the information, the registration of this webinar will be soon available on the IBF YouTube channel. We will inform you through our social channel. So, Professor Borghese, if you want to conclude.
Okay, I like to underline some focal aspect of this session about Maria Serapica, the importance to satisfy the requirements of the animals, particularly energy requirements and the protein requirements, even if now is easier than in the past, as all the farmers can apply formulation in a computer with the possibility to be informed. The second, about Edoardo Bastianetto, the importance to fight the pathologies, parasitosis and infective pathologies. In Italy, there is a very strict veterinary service to control the animals in intensive systems, because all the animals are registered and controlled. I understand that in extensive system of South America is more difficult, because the animals are very exposed to the parasitosis, particularly, and also to infective pathologies. Finally, about Domenico Vecchio, I know that it's very important. The welfare is very linked to livestock sustainability, and there is no future for the livestock if the livestock will be not sustainable. And I like very much the aspect of housing hazard, because in my experience, I found many cases of lack of water or incorrect milking that are very, very frequent, because some farms operators are not very applied to this aspect. Thank you very much to all the lecturers. Goodbye.